Hello everybody, my name is Dom of X, comicreleases.com associate editor, and today I have an interview for you. And while I usually have the interviewee do an intro before the video starts, due to two separate NDAs between both me and also the interviewee, we could not do this specific interview until a couple of weeks post the date. So this one is going to be a little bit different, but just in short, we did talk about many things, from the shift in editorial side to the creation of this brand new book and insights as to the dynamics of this team, and also going around and talking about the industry in general. By industry, I do mean certain creators' works and how they were particularly inspired, and also what to expect with this brand new ongoing. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sam Humphries to the channel, and if you haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more interviews or comic-related content, and I will see you all after. Hello everybody, my name is Dom of X, comicreleases.com assistant editor, and today I am talking to somebody, another guest of mine, special on the channel. You might know him as writer of Avengers A.I, the co-creator of titles such as Jonesy, Blackbird with Jen Bartel, Citizen Jack, taking over the reins from Rick Remender on Uncanny X-Force for Marvel Now, legendary Star-Lord, Green Lanterns, and essentially creating the voices for Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz, Nightwing, Harley Quinn, Dial H for Hero, and the lead scripter of the brand new Avengers team. I'm talking to none other than former co-host of the DC Daily. This is Sam Humphries. How are you doing today?
Damn, I'm feeling exhausted after you listed all these things that I worked out over the years. You remember shit that I don't even remember. You're like, that time in second grade when he came in third place in the art contest. Like, you got receipts going way, way back. You touched all the bases. I'm impressed.
No, well, I appreciate your writing, and I also appreciate you being here. So thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Of course. And before we get everything started, because we have a lot to discuss with the brand new title that you have over at Marvel and a lot of other things as well. How did you get into comics?
Boy, I guess like you could extend the timeline all the way back to getting, when I first got into comics as a kid and I first read comics. I did truly start off as a Marvel zombie, a Marvel fanboy. The first comics I remember having was I got a 3-pack of comics that they used to sell at places like Toys R Us. It'd be 3 issues of a Marvel comic in like a plastic bag, not like a collector's bag, no, but like something flimsier. And I got as a gift, a birthday present one year. And it's 3 issues of Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars, including Secret Wars number 8, which if you know your key issues, I know. And look, I can tell you, did I take really good care of that comic? Absolutely not. It is not going to be a 9 from CGC, not even an 8, not even a 7, but that's okay because it's one of the very first comics I ever had, and it is invaluable to me in that regard. Everybody can find something different that they find valuable in a comic. You ask 10 comic fans and you'll get 16 different answers. So a lot of my favorite issues, or if I had to get rid of all my comics except for a short box, something like that, I would almost certainly pick the ones that have some special place in my heart.
Now you're writing them, like you are part of the comics. World now, like not only Marvel, DC. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. It's a great job, and I'm very lucky and very pleased to have it.
That is so awesome to hear. And not only are you part of that, but you are part of this brand new Avengers team that we have assembled out of the ashes. Well, maybe not out of the ashes because, that's the X-Men thing going on now. But, I mean, you've been in comics now for a decade plus and some change. And The last thing that I remember seeing your name on, because I'm currently reading the Green Lantern run that's out right now with Jeremy Adams, and you had
great run.
You had a hand in one of the backup stories. I think it was issue 9 with Montañez writing Jessica Cruz. I was like, man, where has Sam Humphries been? So where have you been? And what was the decision to come back to Marvel?
I mean, great question. I've not ever been that far from comics. I have done a lot. I've sort of spread my wings a little bit, and I've expanded my horizons, and I've been writing in a lot of different kinds of areas the past few years. I did my first forays into writing novels. Me and two friends of mine, Cami Garcia and Gwen Nabond, we sold a 3-book deal to Audible called The Youngbloods. Loved working on that. Been doing video game work. I've been doing some creative development work. I've been doing some scripted podcast work, like audio drama kind of thing. So I've really just been having a great time trying out new things and working in new areas, and a lot of that has continued. But I've never been that far from comics. I have always, sort of kept in touch, and opportunities have come my way that I've been able to say yes to. Like I've written some Firefly comics recently, and some a Power Rangers one shot that was a lot of fun, and that short story, that Jessica Cruz short story, was so great. It's really just sort of been about what feels right and what feels fun. And this new Avengers book from the get-go seemed like a ton of fun, seemed like such a great thing that I could not even dream about passing up, particularly because of the name change, which has never been done before in a comic book. And was, people have been asking, like, oh, did they spring this on you? Did you have to change your plans? And blah, blah, blah. Like, no, this was part of the very first conversation I had with Marvel, with my incredible editor, Alana Smith, where I did not know any secrets about the movie. I knew none secrets about the movie except for the title change. And they said, we want to reflect that in this comic book. So they had some details to work out behind the scenes, just like logistically with distributor databases and that sort of thing. Because again, this has never been done before. Never had a comic book change title like this before. But on my end, it was a done deal before I even started scripting the first issue. So this was always the vision from the start.
Interesting that you mentioned that, because I know that at least from the fan perspective, say on my end, right, when we see stuff like this, it's like Marvel's doing the MCU, like, 2 comic book synergy again. Like, I remember back when, I think it was like 2020, 2021, the Moon Knight TV show was coming out. And the next thing you know, we heard like, hey, Jed MacKay is going to be writing Moon Knight, and has been for the last 5 years. But maybe you could take me into the bit of change, just like how the editorial team, or if you know any of that, works.
Not really familiar with any of that, and I have not really seen any of that impact my work. I'm sure there must be some synergy. It's all one company. I don't know any secrets about the MCU. I don't know what's coming. None of that has influenced my writing or my storylines. Maybe some other books are in different positions. I don't know. I really just sit down and try and write the coolest comic book I can.
You have some cool characters that you are going to be in charge of, and obviously some big hitters. The first of which is Bucky Barnes. Like, what do you love so much about Bucky, and what is his role going to be his role on the team?
Well, I'm very lucky to be coming hot on the heels of the very long run that Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly have had on the character. I think one of the character's most defining runs for sure. And I really love everything that they put him through, and they put him through a lot as a character.
They did.
They really, really did. And that's great, because that means that I get a Bucky who has learned a lot of lessons. and I get to have him utilize all those lessons that he learned and dealing with the boys. So Bucky's coming off a long road. He's sort of at the beginning of this book. He's in a position where he doesn't really know if he wants another team. He doesn't really, he's sort of been doing his own thing, and he doesn't know if he wants to get back into teams, because teams are, so messy. They can be so much drama. They can be so uncontrollable. And he really is a soldier and a spy at heart. And it may just not be what he wants to get into. But, it is a team book. The book is called New Avengers, and the Avengers must assemble no matter how he feels about it. So a lot of the emotional undercurrent for him is going to be about coping with this idea of this team.
Like you mentioned with the Lansing and Kelly run, with him making him the Revolution, and also just everything that he's had for the last 20 years since Brubaker brought him back from the dead. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was like, I love Bucky Cap. I loved Bucky Cap's like costume, and just getting to see him from completely brainwashed, I don't know who I am, to sort of where he is now, like hearing you talk about he's going to have conflictions because, he's not Steve. He's not necessarily maybe the leader that we envisioned, but he still has, at least from all of the growth that he's had over the 20 years, like experience in that field and getting to show people, hey, like maybe I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that he's a character who occupies a very distinct place in the Marvel universe in terms of how other characters see him, because they have respect for him. He's a legend. He's an icon. Even the oldest of characters have been told about him from when they were young. Hank Pym, Janet Von Dyne, Bruce Banner, like they all heard about Bucky as a legend, right? And now he's back, and it's like, wow, this guy is like walking among us. He's like working with us, he's fighting us. And oh my God, like he's a little scary. Like, damn, did you hear about, oh yeah, he's like been through some shit. And he's not just like good, he's deadly. He's like a badass, you know what I mean? So I think his relationship with the rest of the universe is very fascinating, not the least of which is because he doesn't really know or understand it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just kind of does his thing. He's not like Tony Stark, who's very aware of how he comes off or how he wants to come off to other people. Bucky is a character who just kind of wants to do his thing.
And he has to learn how to set that aside, especially on a team with so many different and very strong personalities, I will say.
Very strong personalities, very strong power sets, very strong personalities, very combustible teams.
And you are here to make sure that the combustion doesn't happen, or will it? Is my question.
No, I'm here to make sure the ship blows up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like hearing that. I like hearing that. And not
this
only
is not a tea time book. I love a good tea time book, but this is not a cozy team story. This is not it. No.
I mean, when you have Carnage on the team, I hope it would be.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's kind of baked in.
And speaking of baked in, not only is Bucky on the team, I mean, Natasha has been at the forefront of a lot of not only Marvel life, but also Bucky's life. I mean, these two have been intertwined, so to speak, in their missions and their goals for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. So tell me more about Natasha's role and what you love writing about her personality, her character.
Well, I think you really hit the nail on the head in her relationship with Bucky. Like, they're not just sort of like coworkers or allies. Like, they have a lot of the same trauma, right? Like, they have a lot of the same sort of damage in their past. And it has molded them to be similar figures in terms of like secret ops, killers, tools of their country or another country. And I think they both have very different ways of dealing with that. And I think that, it's less about what side of the line you're on, and it's more about how you negotiate that line that defines you. And they both come out in a very different way, but they can bond so much. And now they are, they're in a relationship, and I find that quite beautiful. I think it's like so beautiful when two souls like that can come together, and be happy together. Unfortunately, it's not my job to write happy characters. So as much as I love them together, I don't know what's going to happen to them. We shall see. Maybe the writer of this book knows what's going to happen. I sure don't.
Okay. I like that answer, and I'd like the suspense keeping us on treads with not only their, I guess, whatever their relationship and what that might hold, but honestly, what you're talking about is giving me those same Jessica Cruz, Simon Baz vibes from your Green Lantern, and maybe you're going to bring that over to I have no idea.
Well, it's funny because Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz, I knew right from the start that they would never be romantically entwined. I knew that they were just going to be uneasy partners at first, sort of like uneasy cop partners at first, but then that they would be really grow a bond together and be besties, but never romantically involved. And I thought that was a really strong aspect of their relationship. Bucky and Nat, they're coming to the table already involved, and I think that there's so much depth there in between them that I can't help but explore. Can't help but want to explore. And one of my favorite things about Nat in this situation is that she finds herself being sort of the center or the bedrock of this team. While everybody else is kind of wilding out, like she finds herself being the one who people look to. She's the one that people say, like, Nat's got her head on her shoulders, and Nat's got her shit together. When everything's blowing up around us, I'm not going to look to see what Carnage is doing. I'm going to look and see what Natasha's doing, and that's what's going to let me know what's going on.
It's a nice viewpoint and perspective to have, especially with Natasha. So that's not only great to hear, but in that same case, like, I know that you mentioned with Bucky that he's had, very long, treaded history, if you might, for like the last 20 years since he's coming back to the Marvel Universe. I think Black Widow has had a pretty great line of comics over like exploring her character and relationships for like the last 10, 15 years. I love the Kelly Thompson, Elena Casagrande, amazing stuff. Mark Waid and Chris Omni. So have you read any of those, or are we planning to bring that to the same table?
I read both those runs at least once, and I've been going back and sort of like just dipping in and out of those runs a little bit, because I love the way that both those creative teams approach Natasha, and they do so in very different ways. And it helps ground me when I'm trying to write her, especially because I have a minimum 7 different characters to master, Right. So sometimes, when you're like in the zone, like you just need like a quick hit to get like, okay, I got to write Natasha in this scene. I got it. Like, it's got to be spot on. Oh yeah. What was that issue that Kelly wrote? Yeah, it was so, okay. I'm going to just go back that and just like get recentered and be like, oh yeah, this is how Kelly saw Natasha, and I really like that, but I feel like there's something more that I can add to it as well. So, it's really great having past runs like that to reference, because it's a great starting point. You get to be like, wow, I really love what this team brought out of this character, and here's things that I know that I want to bring out in this character.
I love to just see you going back and to reference previous runs and seeing what people have established before. I just sort of as like I'm not only caught up with like the comics that are coming out, but like what these creators have done to sort of establish the foundation of who these characters are now.
Oh yeah, I love shared universes. I love working in shared universes, and I have a lot of respect for the creators who have come before me, and the creators that I'm lucky enough to call my peers, you know. And Kelly and Mark, those are two like excellent examples of like creators where like I don't really have to spend a lot of time questioning what they've done because I know that they come from a place of really strong emotions for characters and a really high intelligence when it comes to comics. So it's great to be able to go back to this comics and be like, I know I can trust what they did here.
That is awesome.
They know what they're doing.
They definitely do. They definitely do. If I've learned anything from like Kelly's work over like the last 7-8 years, I mean, like, I can't tell you a book that I haven't enjoyed. Like, it's crazy to think about.
Oh, Kelly's so great. She's killing it right now in Absolute Wonder Woman as well.
I love Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
But speaking of, and in that same, I guess, different-ish case as well. I mean, you have Clea Strange on this book too.
Yeah.
And what Jed MacKay has done with her character, you know, after the death of Doctor Strange and making her the Sorcerer Supreme. What are you bringing to the table with Clea?
You know, right off the bat, I had a concept for this team. I guess you would call it a concept. Because I was thinking back on the previous runs of New Avengers. And, you know, the Bendis run was great because for a lot of that time, the New Avengers were sort of the underdogs, or like specifically post Civil War, they were like even the illegal Avengers, you know? And then also during his run, you had the Illuminati, the first appearance of the Illuminati and the Illuminati one shot. That was all part of that New Avengers run. And then you had Hickman's run as well, which you know, he was writing both titles at the same time, and the big Avengers title was like the big tent title with like so many new characters being welcomed into the fold and these huge big stories that were happening. And New Avengers was kind of like the underground title. It was darker, it was more covert, and the team lineup was the Illuminati, and what they were doing was very secret and very dark. And they felt like they had to do what they did in secret. So one thing I love about the Illuminati is that in one team, you're touching like 7 different corners of the Marvel Universe all at once. And that's what I thought would be a cool thing to do with this lineup, you know, like, but instead of having like 7 noble heroes as like philosopher kings or whatever, you would get like 7 badasses and bastards, right? You know what I mean? Like the bloody nose characters from like, you know, from the mutant world, you have Wolverine, and from, you know, the Gamma family, you have Hulk, and from you know, the Avengers, you have Bucky and Nat, and from the mystical world, I thought Clea was an easy pick because she is the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension, which has got to be a tougher job than being the Sorcerer Supreme of this dimension, right? Like the Dark Dimension, that's a handful. There's a lot going on there, and her family tree is a mess.
It is.
Like it is a mess. She is a survivor and a thriver, right? Like she has seen and done some dark stuff over the years to get to where she is these days. And I really wanted to put her in a situation where all that stuff that she has lived through and all the trauma she has lived through got a chance to come to the forefront and kind of see what Clea is like with the gloves off.
And also with a team of 6 other people that she also has to help control. Who knows what's going to happen, right?
Exactly. I mean, her personality is so fun. It's so fun to write. It's so fun to collide up against these different characters. I mean, you sound like you love Clea a ton. Am I correct?
Yes.
Who do you think is going to be her favorite person on the team, and who do you think is going to be her least favorite person on the team?
I can't see her.
Just off the top of your head.
I can't see her going eye to eye with Eddie at all.
Okay.
I think you know what? I'm going to say the Hulk. I think she will have a great relationship with Bruce.
Okay. Very interesting, Dom. Very interesting.
You gotta think around the usual stereotypes when you talk about weird personalities mixing and mashing with this.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to think of, and I'm like, who's going to work well and who's not going to work well with whom. So,
yeah, exactly. Well, very interesting answers. And to find out if you're right, you will have to read New Avengers.
Not only do you have Clea, who's gotten a lot of spotlight in the last however many. I mean, Namor. You mentioned. The original, not only the original Illuminati, but also Hickman's Illuminati in New Avengers, and Namor certainly was one of the most fun people I had reading, reading along with his relationship with Black Panther in that book and sort of like their rivalry. Tense. Yeah. Tense to the point where cities and empires are getting destroyed and crumbled.
Yeah.
And now he's back. Like, I can't wait to see what you've got with Namor, the king of Atlantis. Like, what are you bringing to the table here with Namor?
Well, I got a real gift in the form of the Namor Limited series by Jason Aaron, who, great guy, great writer. And he really did a great sort of reframing, recentering of Namor. So Namor comes to me in a really great, solid place for this character. But what I was saying before about, this team representing 7 different corners of the Marvel Universe, I saw Namor as sort of representing the Fantastic Four family, but also Namor just kind of represents himself. He's got a long, long history. He's a mutant. He's royalty of Atlantis. He is intimately connected with the Fantastic Four. He has ties to Bucky going back to World War II. Not a lot of characters have that kind of tie.
He's an invader, always an invader.
Always an invader. Yeah, and he's a Golden Age hero. That's rare in the Marvel lineup to have a true Golden Age hero. We have 2 of them, which I think is very cool. There might only be 3. No, wait, there's a couple more. Human Torch, Toro. But not a lot. So I really love putting Namor in a team context, if you see what I'm saying. Because Namor is not a character. He is a leader. He is royalty. But he's not necessarily used to playing a role in a group. And there's a moment in the very first issue where you begin to sort of see how this is going to play out or not play out for Namor.
Namor has always been, I think, one of the ticking time bombs with every single book that he's in. You always anticipate that there's always bound for something to happen. Even reading a Fantastic Four with Jonathan Hickman, when Sue Storm goes to Atlantis and they, Namor's trying to get in and Sue's just like, no man, I rule here. Like, what are you talking about? But it always feels like Namor always has something to throw at you that you don't know, you can't see coming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Namor's a ticking clock, like you said, but what happens when you put that ticking clock in a room with other ticking clocks? like, how does that change or not change Namor's point of view of himself? Does that reinforce how he sees himself? Does that poke a hole in how he sees himself?
Maybe he grows as a character and realizes that sometimes he should tone it down a bit when he's in a room with other.
Yeah, maybe Namor realizes that he should just retire and open a bakery somewhere and lead a quiet life.
That's never going to happen. Although, what I will say, I love Kelly Thompson's, now that we mentioned her again. It's Jeff series on Marvel Unlimited. Maybe she writes that in and Jeff buys a bread somewhere or something and Namor's the cashier. That would be so cute.
That would fit in perfectly, and it's Jeff.
Not only do you have all of those other characters on the team, Laura Kinney is my favorite Wolverine, and she has been ever since I got fully, steeped in Marvel when House of X came out. I feel I feel so bad for mentioning Hickman up all the time, but I mean he got her back, full in the Wolverine costume with the vault. And she's been everywhere since.
I mean, Hickman's just prolific. Like, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a comic that he wrote these days. So that's on him, not on us.
That's true.
No, I love Laura Kinney. You know, like I said, the concept was 7 of the biggest badasses from each corner of the Marvel universe, and I didn't go for Logan. I went for Laura. Laura is Wolverine. Laura is Wolverine in this book. And you'll see that she's, you know, she has an incredible ongoing solo series right now with Erica Schultz. Erica is doing a fantastic job with the character. Again, this is just like a gift for me because I can take the work that Erica has already done on this character and just play off that, you know, show some different sides, to show her in a different light. Again, you put her in a room with these characters. What does that bring out in her as a character? That's a lot of fun. But, you know, I'm grateful to the X Office and to Erica and the whole creative team for allowing me to take Laura on little field trips here and there in between her own solo adventures. I promised that I would bring her back in one piece, but I may have been crossing my fingers a little bit.
Oh no, what's going to happen to one of my favorite characters?
She's a healing factor, so like whatever.
She'll be fine.
I mean, she's an engaging character, but she's also just a lot of fun to like throw at stuff. You know, like what's the biggest explosion I can put her in the middle of? Because she can always bounce back.
That's right. And we have the Hulk now here. We got to have a fastball special at some point, right?
We have the Hulk, or maybe we switch it up somehow. Seems like everybody just wants to keep throwing Laura at things, right?
That's right. And that's never a bad thing, because I think she definitely deserves a spotlight, and to have her around, you know, for the last couple of years being as one of the mains. I mean, her being on the X-Men, like, it's been awesome to see.
Yeah, Laura definitely gets her spotlight in this first arc.
Which is another cool thing to hear. I feel like I've been saying that over and over again.
I'm ticking all the boxes for you here, Dom. This book's for you.
This is a book for me. But not only that, we have Eddie Brock as Carnage.
Eddie Brock, yeah. Eddie Brock as Carnage. I mean, who'd have thought? This is such a brilliant character evolution, I feel, for both Eddie and Carnage. It's been a ton of fun talking with Charles Soule about this. Again, great guy, great writer. He's doing fantastic work on that book. And I love the status quo so much that he has set up for Eddie. And I love the dynamic between the two. I think it's it's kind of like the darkest odd couple you can imagine. You know, it's like a dark version of like Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble. Much more murderous and bloodthirsty and covered in blood. So it's been a lot of fun just talking with Charles and be like, but what happens when Eddie does this and Carnage does that? You know what I mean? Just like, what do they do? You know, like, and just pelting him with all these like questions, like, when Eddie's asleep, what does Carnage do? You know, like, so. Eddie's also a lot of fun because I think this is maybe like really the first team he's ever been on, at least in this fashion.
Right. As Carnage with the symbiote.
I mean, he's definitely not used to being on a team of quote unquote do-gooders. He's kind of the least do-gooder of the bunch, technically. He's definitely never been an Avenger.
No.
No one named Carnage has ever been an Avenger until now. But Eddie has really sort of like, he has dedicated himself to a new mission in life that overlaps with the sort of general status quo of this team, which is to, you know, can we use our bad impulses for good? Eddie has a very unique situation in that he has an incredibly insistent partner in Carnage. So it's fun to see that play out.
I love that you use the word insistent, because
that's one word for Carnage. That's one accurate word of many. Yeah.
This is gonna be a team of at literally the end of the run. We're gonna have like a whole bunch of adjectives to describe every single one of the actions.
A lot of adjectives. Yeah. instead of the Incredible Hulk, it's going to be the Insistent Carnage.
Insistent Carnage by Philip
Insistent
Kennedy Johnson
Carnage.
or something like that. Because that's also what I also wanted to bring up too. Like,
Yeah.
PKJ has also been killing it. Absolutely incredible stuff. You want to talk about like really good body horror on top of just like a solid piece on Bruce. I mean, that's a run that I always tell people, like, you got to try it at some point.
Yeah, and I really have to give it up to Philip and to Charles and to Erica and all their editorial teams for really like being willing and excited to figure out ways to make it work, to have their characters be on this team. It was had a great chat with Philip and Hulk editor Jordan White and our editor Alana Smith, where the four of us just kind of came together. Not really sure if it was going to be possible to make it make sense to have Hulk on this team, but the more the four of us talked about it, the more we kind of zeroed in on this idea that was so cool that we were like, well, we kind of have to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the idea is so cool, we kind of got to do it. But I also just love talking shop with my fellow writers and just seeing how they approach things and how they think things through, and hearing, Philip's plans for future issues. And I don't think I should say what it is coming up in the Hulk books, because I don't think it's been announced yet, but we had a really fun chat about that. And so, I have to give the most credit to my editor, Alana, because when I pitched her the idea of this group, 7 characters from 7 different corners, the part that's baked into that is liaising with nearly every Marvel editorial group in that office. Like, I invented a huge number of tasks for her to work with all these other editorial teams and all these other creative teams to make sure that all the characters are where they need to be and everybody's acting the way they should and all sorts of things. Like, I really gave Alana a massive task. But I gotta say that, like, it has not been like wearing 7 pairs of handcuffs. It's really, I think, sharpened the team and made it better to sort of have these constraints and to be like, this is what this character is bringing into this room. This is sort of how this character sees the world, and this is how it's going to clash with these other POVs. So it's although I really did a number on Alana's inbox, this has been a really fantastic experience working with all these teams.
This sounds like the best team experience that you've had. And not only like just in the case of that, you've been on multiple team books for your entire, like, whether it's a duo or not, and now it's like culminating to this. Like, it's like you have a big dangerous toolkit of like 7 super sharp. I have no idea how these are all going to fit, but they fit into a larger puzzle, and that is really cool to hear.
Yeah, and when it comes to team books, like, you are going to have to coordinate with other creative teams and other editorial teams. The fact of life, it's a shared universe. You can't get away with it, and sometimes, if you can't get out of it, you gotta get into it. And I thought there's a lot to be gained both on the page and behind the scenes from really leaning into it and being like, let's see how many people we can get involved in this, because I really do believe that multiple creative voices can make a project better.
And not only that, I mean, you're working with Tom Lima, right? Who's doing the illustrations for the book. And how was the collaboration with them been?
Oh, he's fantastic. He's a beast. I mean, he's killing it. Like, his pages are so good. I was really excited right off the bat, just seeing his work on West Coast Avengers, and I was like, this is going to be great. And then, we had some chats early on, and, I was like, I'm going to recommend that you rewatch all the Fast and the Furious movies in preparation for this. I think you need to binge watch all the movies in a row, and you do that over and over and over again for a month straight. And then when I saw the pages he turned in, I was like, I think he actually did it. I think he took me seriously and watched nothing but Fast and the Furious for an entire month.
It's a lot of Carfu in 1 month, I will say.
It sure is. It sure is. But he's really doing fantastic. He's really inhabited each character right off the bat. You know, I mean, I love action, I love visuals, and I love spectacle. But I also get really invested in character emotion, and it's a visual medium. So when you have an artist like Ton who does such a great job with the acting of characters, the visual emotions of characters, then you know you can really, really go deep with them.
That is great to hear, and that just more so proves that this is going to be a book for me for like the long run, and I can't wait to pick it up and say. I mean, so you got Steven Segovia on the covers, which is one of my
talk about a beast.
Yeah,
Come on.
I love Steven. I love Steven's art. Have since Hellions was the book that gripped me with Steven, and just seeing him on more titles and doing more covers, doing Secret Six over at DC with Nicole Maines. Like, he's everywhere now, and I'm really, really happy to see that.
He's everywhere, but we got him. We're very lucky we got him.
And you guys can, of course, pick up the brand new Avengers. Is it? Well, actually, this is going to be the last question. Hopefully we can get to some general questions, because I have a lot of other questions about your other work. Is this an ongoing? Are you in? Is this strapped for the long run? Okay.
Oh, I'm strapped in, baby. I mean, I don't know. There's so much that goes into the longevity of a title. And a lot of it is just out of my hands. There's one thing I can control, and that's I can sit down and write the best comic I can. So I am locked in. We're about to dive into the second arc already. I have plans for the third arc. I have ideas for the fourth and the fifth. I mean, I am locked in. I am ready to go. This is an ongoing as far as I'm concerned, and I'm going to write this book until the wheels fall off or they tell me to stop, whichever comes first.
All right. Well, that, as you can hear, people, is none other than Sam Humphries' confirmation on he is going to be seatbelt against this car.
That's right.
This Fast and Furious inspired vehicle of self-destruction for the long run.
Right. This vehicle hurtling towards its own certain doom.
Oh my goodness! And I hope you will all be. I know I'll be there, but I hope you guys will all join in this with me as well. And
absolutely, y'all gotta get on the horn. Gotta talk to your retailers. Gotta talk to your comic book store. Like, they gotta know that you want this book. I want to hear those fingers right now, like click-clacking on those keyboards, emailing, tweeting at your retailer, getting on your WhatsApp, maybe even making a phone call. I know it sucks talking to people on the phone. I hate to do it too, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. And this may be your only way to ensure that you actually get a copy of this book.
This is going to be awesome, and I cannot wait to see this title mirror against Jed MacKay's main title in all the best ways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, again, this goes back to my original concept of the book, because Jed's doing an crazy run on Avengers, an all-timer run. He has an all-timer lineup. And I was like, well, we're not going to compete with that by trying to do another version of that. We're just going to be a watered down. You can't have like another Black Panther and another Captain Marvel and another so on and so forth down the line. And we got to stand out. We got to do something different. So that's how we ended up with this. Oh, and also we can get to talk about the Illuminati at all yet.
We did not. No.
I mean, real briefly, because there's not a lot I can say yet, but they were partially revealed on some variant covers. And again, this goes back to me thinking this is New Avengers. What's New Avengers about? And the Illuminati is deeply baked into New Avengers runs. And I wanted a threat that could mirror the composition of the team. Again, you have 7 characters from 7 different corners of the Marvel Universe. the Illuminati's already done it. They're already there. So how do we make them a threat to face off against? You come up with duplicates that are demented and deformed and distorted from the original versions, and then you set them loose against this team, which is already highly combustible, and you see what happens. There's a great mirror there, in that Bucky has a huge challenge to keep his team in line, and the leader of the Illuminati, Iron Apex, has a lot of work to do to keep his team in line as well.
This is going to be awesome, and this is going to. I mean, this is like Bendis Hickman Illuminati twisty inspiration right here.
Yeah. Well, those are both great runs, and let's not forget Al Ewing's crazy run on New Avengers as well. I dove back in on that and pulled a lot from that as well.
I love Al Ewing's books. Always a treat to.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah,
he's so good. It's gross how good he is.
I completely agree with you. And yes, like Sam said, call your retailers, even if you don't want to, and tell them, hey, we got to pick up a copy of New Avengers #1, which comes out on the 11th of June of this year.
That's correct. You know your shit, Dom.
I try to. But one other thing that Marvel, I guess, has seen develop over in the last year or so since the From the Ashes, if what have you, and also too with Teenie Howard's run on Excaliburs, we got to see Betsy Braddock become Captain Britain, which is I'm pretty sure for you writing Uncanny X-Force, like that has to be something cool for you to see, just sort of like her growth as a character. But also too, like I love that she's not only out, but she's also dating Rachel Summers right now, which is one of the most awesome things to see.
I love that. You love to see it,
and I love to see it. But I want to ask you, like, because you wrote, you got a relationship with Betsy and Cluster back in your Uncanny X-Force. If I may, like, what led you to that decision, and what were the behind the scenes of it all for it?
Well, I think I think it really started with because I followed up Rick Remender's run on Uncanny X-Force because I'm insane. You know, it wasn't crazy enough to follow Hickman on the Ultimates. I had to follow Remender on X-Force.
Indeed.
Because I have a death wish, very powerful death wish, apparently. But I believe it. I think, yes, because at the end of Remender's run, he split Phantom X into 3 characters. Phantom X is 3 brains. And he told me that was coming up, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, now we have these other characters. That's great. Like a cool, like that's such a mind fuck for Phantom X. That's a great place to move him into. And then I was like, well, what's that going to do to Betsy? Like, she's in love with Phantom X. And I was like, but is she in love with all 3 brains? Does she even know this? Does anybody know this? Well, there's only going to be one way to find out. And that's going to put her in a situation where she has to figure it out for herself. And she did.
That's beautiful. Because honestly, like, what I really love about you, Sam, at least from like the last hour or so that we talked, is you have a lot of respect for the people who came before you and trying to build on stuff like that. That's great. Like, that's awesome.
You got to. I mean, you just got to. And I think it's something, creators of the past, whether it's, Rick from a few years ago, or it's, Bill Everett, the co-creator of Namor, back in the Golden Age. You have to have respect for the creators who came before you. You have to, learn from the things that they went through. And you have to carry that knowledge forward for whoever comes after you, especially when you're working on superhero comics. You know what I mean? Like, I sit down every day and think, like, I'm gonna write one of the greatest comics to ever feature Namor or any of these characters. Like, that's what I aim for, but there were characters on Namor before me, and the creators on Namor before me, and there'll be creators on Namor after me. And if too many creators disrespect that lineage, then you just are not going to have a Namor to write. Like, I am standing on the shoulders of I mean, 7 different long lines of creators, you know, like, I mean, I'll get emotional if I start listing them all. With Clea, we have Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, and also Steve Englehart and Paul Smith and Marshall Rogers. You know what I mean? Like, I just goes on and on. I mean, like, it just goes on and on. Yeah, you know, if you're not in a little bit of awe in that when you start writing characters or books like this, then what are you doing? You're in the wrong business. Like, if that doesn't like give you a pause of emotion and awe, then, you know, get into accounting or something else that you love, something else that gives you that feeling. If you don't get it here, then you got a problem with your life, you know?
That is a beautiful answer, and seeing you not only respect those creators, but also, again, like we have a completely canonical bisexual Betsy Braddock now, who's living her best life, or at least what you can, right? Because superheroes can never live their best life, if there's anything that I've learned.
Not for too long.
In the never-ending story of comics. So
that's right.
So that's awesome to hear. And I also have to ask about a couple of DC books. I mentioned this in the first email, our first thread we came out with. You have a lot of DC books because I was a DC kid growing up, and I didn't get to Marvel until 2019, like I mentioned earlier, with House of X. And I was like, man, like I recognize this guy. Like, he wrote, you know, Jessica Cruz, Simon Baz. He wrote, he took over Nightwing, like right in the middle of things. Before I go on, I have to ask, did you by any chance get a comp copy of the Nightwing Rebirth Omnibus? Like, did you hear that was coming out? Because it's big, it's gorgeous, it's got all your comics in it too.
I don't think I got it, but I also, as you know, moved to London.
Right.
And I think they may be sitting on it for me, because shipping a normal comic book these days, international shipping, is absolutely insane.
It very much is.
And shipping an omnibus to me would be lunacy. So I think DC is holding on to that for me wisely. But I mean, what a great book to have a small corner in. You know, it's a great run that I got to jump into, and there's some fantastic stories in there.
For sure. And one thing too, like, did you take over that book? Because I know that you, like, Tim Seeley got on Green Lanterns, and then you got on that. Was that sort of like a switch, just like you saying, like, hey, could you take over this book from me? How did that well work out?
We just, you know, it's like when you're doing square dancing and you do-si-do, and it's like, change your partner, and you just like dance around and switch. No, it was, God, it was so long ago, but I do remember that Harley Quinn was gonna open up, but the book hadn't opened up fully yet. Like, Jimmy and Amanda were on it. I mean, again, like, I followed Hickman, I followed Remender, I followed Jimmy and Amanda. Like, I got a death wish. But so they had sort of given notice at DC, and DC, you know, had let me know they wanted me on the book, but it wasn't quite, like, they hadn't quite wrapped yet. But I was coming to a sort of like a natural break in my Green Lanterns run, where I had plans moving forward, but it was kind of like maybe like a halfway or 1/3 of the way point in my plans. And it was like, if I'm going to hop off this title, like, now is the time. And so Tim, I can't remember what Tim's situation was, but the timing worked out where they were like, hey, you could write one arc of Nightwing in between Green Lantern and Harley. And it just sort of worked out that way.
Interesting. I usually don't know about, like, the whereabouts, because sometimes it's like, hey, like, maybe there's a fill-in artist, where I learned from Mark Waid that typically, like, Dan Moore or whoever he's working with will let him know, like, I need more advance time, I need, you know, somebody else. And I always feel like, man, if, like, you know, somebody's filling in for, say, like, maybe an arc or two, just like as a short gap before they find whatever the permanent creative team is, like, I have no idea what goes on behind those scenes. So I appreciate the fill-in, no pun intended.
Yeah, it's been years, and I kind of the memory blurs, but primarily what I remember is how much of a great time I had writing Dick Grayson and writing Bloodhaven.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And also too, like I know I mentioned Green Lanterns a billion times in our conversation, but like you talk about runs before, like Jeff Johns' Justice League run was one of my gateways into comics, and I mean that's like a sprawling 50-issue epic of all of the explosions that you could think of. But obviously, like the biggest
Jessica Cruz's first appearance in that run.
Yep. And I thought her arc in the Dark Side War was some of the most like invigorating, inspiring thing of like, hey, like I can do something bigger than me. But I love the way that you not only took that sort of inspirational heroic model, but also with Jessica dealing with her anxiety on top of like having to deal with the entirety of protecting people as a member of the Green Lantern Corps. Like I can't imagine how tough that must be, writing for you with those situations and that character in mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a bit of an advantage, I guess you could call it, in that I deal with anxiety as well. It's something that I've dealt with for many, many years, and the idea of overcoming great fear is something that is core to the Green Lantern legacy. Like, it's right there. And I thought that was a fascinating part of her character. Again, that was already there from Jeff's run, and it's something that I really wanted to seize on and sort of work out with her. Like I wanted to show not just her being better at being Green Lantern, like learning the ring and learning how to be a superhero and like all that kind of stuff, but also just better at managing her own anxiety. And I didn't want it to be like a self-help book or anything, but in little bits and pieces in there, I tried to include some things that I have learned that have helped me with my anxiety. So for people out there who have similar struggles, like they could pick up on and sort of see if that helps them in their own lives as well. But honestly, it was just something that I really immediately latched onto and related to her with. And I knew that I could write that character for 100 issues and not run out of things to write about.
Well, I can definitely say that it helped me a lot. Like going through late teens and early college years. Like that was a book that I gravitated towards. Especially with the way you wrote Jess and her situations. It was like, man, I can see a lot of myself in her, and I felt your love in those pages. So I want to say thank you.
Oh my God. I of course, like, thank you for saying so. That's so meaningful to me. I really appreciate it. And the way that people have related to Jess and reacted to her and have been able to, see changes in their own lives. Jess is just a character, and I'm just a writer. People who have made changes in their own lives, like that strength comes from you all, and I'm just super proud of anybody who's been able to do anything like that in their lives.
Well, it's been a big one, and I want to thank you for it. That also means you gotta have to like ask DC at some point. We need an omnibus of your Green Lanterns run. Like,
oh man. Don't ask me to ask DC. They don't want to hear from me. Are you kidding? Like, they'll be like, "Oh, you want an omnibus of your own work?" Yeah, I bet you do. Like, a likely thing for you to say. Like, they don't do it because a creator wants it. We all want omnibuses. Like, get the fuck, come on. So we need people like you to talk to DC and tell DC what you all want to see and what you all want to buy and get excited about. They know what I'd get excited for. That's no surprise to them. They don't need me to say that.
All right. Well, if in that case, I will use some of my powers to let DC know that we will. Because I think that whole entire like post Jeff Johns era Green Lantern, like a lot of it is sparsely uncollected. I know like some trade paperbacks are now out of print. And it would just be nice to have, I have the entire Jeff Johns and Peter J. Tomasi runs in Omniform, behind me, and I'm like, they're lonely. They need friends.
And the Venditti run on Green Lanterns would make a pretty omnibus as well.
They're
That'd
getting
be beautiful.
they're doing 2 of the New 52 ones, and I believe that I've known this is me speaking on my butt, but it would not surprise to see them do a Howlin' Pals Omni of their Rebirth run at some point.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yes,
and hopefully Jess and Simon as well.
Yes, we need that. We need to make it. We need to make it happen.
We do.
And also in that same manner, because you also were part of Brian Michael Bendis's curated.
Right.
I know that we talked a lot about Bendis in our conversation, but how was it like to get onto the curated line of fun time comics with Wonder Comics? Like, you want to talk about like the positivity. How was that like?
Man, it was crazy because Brian is a good friend, and I had come over to DC before him, so we had been talking about, his plans when he came over to DC. So I sort of had multiple conversations with him over time about Wonder Comics, and as he was forming what he wanted it to be like, and those sorts of things. And he was like, "You should write a book," and I was like, "Yeah, totally, I would love to write a book." He'd be like, "You should," I was like, "I totally will." Like, and one day he called me up and he said, "What about Dial H for Hero?" And I said, "Dial H for Hero?" I was like, "What?" Not really what I had. I was like, it's not what I imagined. And I really sort of had like no relationship to Dial H for Hero.
Right.
I certainly was aware of it. I maybe read a couple issues here and there, but it was not something I keyed into. And he was like, "Well, just go back, just go read it, just blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay," like I'll. And then Brian was right. He had somehow picked this title for me, and I related to it in a way that I completely didn't expect. And I should have just listened to him the first time, because he knows his shit. And that's how we got started.
He's a really good ideas guy, I think, is what I've noticed over the years that I've been into comics.
He knows his way around a comic or two, yeah.
To say the least. I mean, when you have, Miles Morales is everywhere, right? Like, I can't name you one person younger than me who doesn't know who Miles. I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But like, you working with Joe Quinones on that, I was every single page. I was marveled at the bombasticness, the creativity, the different art styles. I was like, what else is he gonna pull out of his? I'm like, Joe's gotta have like the biggest room of pencils and watercolors in the world.
That first issue, I remember being like, okay, so when Miguel changes, the comic is gonna change. And he was like, okay, cool. And we talked about like, what should we do? And we settled on Monster Truck and sort of the image style of the early 90s and all that kind of, there's Monster Truck, there he is. And, in the back of my head, I was like, that was a lot of fun and that was very cool, but I need to be prepared for Joe to come back and say like, that was a very cool idea, but it wore me out, it exhausted me, and I can't do that every issue. And I was like, and I have to be okay with that, because that's a very reasonable thing for any artist to say.
Right.
But that is not what Joe said. In fact, he was like, what do we do next issue? And I was like, oh, you want to keep going? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, what if we did 2 styles next issue? And he's like, okay. And then it kind of kept me being like, can I break Joe? Like, can Joe break? And then I was like, well, what if we had 2 styles in the same panel? What if we had 3 styles in the same panel? What if we had Lynda Barry and Jack Kirby and Reign of the Supermen all at the same time? What if we went back to the what is it called? The Earth of Multiversity, where the 2 heroes merge? Yeah. I was like, well, what if we go back there and we show 90 additional merged heroes that we've never seen before? You have to design all their costumes, and a Herculean task that I kept giving Joe every single issue, and he just thrived in it, didn't he?
Yes,
I mean, he really, I mean, I kept telling people before it came out, I was like, you don't know what to expect from Joe Quinones. Like, you have no idea what Joe is capable of. You don't know. But people really saw, like, they really saw and really paid attention because he did such phenomenal work on that book. And then he got his dream job drawing Batman 89, and he really earned it. He really deserved it. Yeah.
I mean, so big to see it. Like, it's crazy to think to see him grow from the Howard the Duck stuff that he did with Chip Zdarsky, and like your book, it's like I could not put every single issue down. And it's no shade to Mark Russell and Stephen Byrne on the Wonder Twins.
They did great work.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I need these pages on my wall dripping. Like, it feels so superhero-y in the best way possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, so much of that came out of just the the friendship that Joe and I already had. I mean, we had spent a couple cons tabling like next to each other or near each other, and sometimes those Sundays can get real slow. You just end up shooting the shit with somebody next to you, and we'd be like, man, remember like when Sin City first came out and Frank Miller like had that like badass like Chiaroscuro black and white art? So we'd be like, yeah, it was cool. And be like, remember when Moebius did that with it? Be like, yeah, man, that was cool. So like Dilatation for Hero is kind of a literalized version of those conversations where instead of just saying, yeah, that was cool, we got to be like, yeah, what if we just made that happen in a comic book?
And you managed to do it in 12 issues.
We did it. Yeah, 12 issues. Incredible fill-in issue with Paulina Gauchino. And we had the Jam issue with Colleen Doran and Mike Oeming and Taki Soma. And God, I'm blanking. Maybe you'll remember more than I do. The other ones we did. Oh, Stacey Lee. Lee. And Erica Henderson. I did. I remembered them all.
Yeah. I love all those creators' work too. So I never felt like the book was like steeping off. I'm who doesn't love Michael Avon Oeming?
Yeah. And we also got to give like so much credit to Dial H's colorist Jordan Gibson and the letterer Dave Sharp, because it wasn't just me and Joe who had to adopt our styles to 100 different comic books. They had to follow suit as well. So like Jordan had to change the coloring and Dave had to like change the caption style and the fonts and the effects and like everything. Like everybody really pitched in to make it feel like the book was literally changing in your hands.
That's one thing too that I also noticed with Dial H was that when the art style, the pencils changed, not only the colors were changing, the letter boxes changed, the caption boxes changed, the font boxes changed. And I'm like, I want to get into, as somebody who tries to do graphic design as a hobby, like gets paid to do it or whatever. I'm like, man, I just want to learn from those guys when it comes to like what font type they're using, what you guys are telling in scripts. Like, can we use something different? So I'm always trying to learn. But yeah, like how were the conversations with Dave? If you can recall, like we have to change this thing for that thing.
I mean, Dave was a master. The conversations were great, but he didn't need a ton of guidance either. I would just put this stuff in the book, and he would pick up on it right away. He was like a scholar of lettering. Like he didn't need me to say like, well, go look up this font online or Google this name of a font or whatever. I'd provide some like reference, or like, oh, we're doing like a Moebius riff here, and I would already have like a ton of photos in my phone of things that I'd taken pictures of, and I just, we had a massive Google Drive full of reference, and we just, I'd send him all that stuff, but he did not require a lot of micromanaging. He understood the assignment. He knew exactly what to do.
That is crazy to see you guys all in sync, even with the fill-ins, even with the shifting colors. Masterpiece of collaboration. I think it truly was. There's nothing in that book that happens. I mean, there's nothing in comic books almost always that happens without collaboration, but especially in the case of Dial H for Hero. For sure. And that wraps up what has been a very
Oh my God.
long...
Well, wait, no, you can't wrap up. This little guy has come to say hello. This is Bean.
Hi, Bean.
Bean is like, it is time to say goodbye because it's time for me to get fat. It's time for my dinner.
It is, but thank you so much, Sam, for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is very
journey.
Cool.
We need to do this again. Just your personality
Let's do it again.
And everything else. This was awesome. Thank you so much. And as always, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out New Avengers when it drops in June.